You are flying with Pod Squadron Podcast. All wings report in. Pod Pirate standing by.
Pod, oh shoot, what's my name? Pod Tracer standing by.
We're flying by the seat of our pants this week. Pod Patine standing by.
Woo,
that was a rough landing, but we did it.
All ships to attack formation. Mission objectives to talk about the full scope of the Star Wars experience, from movies, TV shows, animation, games, comics, books, themed experiences, merch, and your art and inspiration from the galaxy far, far away. In today's flight plan includes Star Wars The High Republic, Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule, Part 2, Chapters 19 through 35, and our guest for the evening, filmmaker and animator Raymond Montemayor, creator of Star Wars Toy Stories. And for all of you out there, all comm channels are open. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Find us on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Hit the L icon? Bell icon. So you know when we have new content. But first, I am your squad leader for the day. I'm Andy Lowe, a.k.a. the Chinese Pirate, director, storyteller, puppeteer, performer, and fight choreographer. On my wing is Tracy.
Writer, blogger, and occasional cosplay artist, though not for like a year. I am the one and only hot nerd girl.
And on my other wing, Lexi.
Hey guys, performance artist, art department gremlin, aerialist, and you guys can find my projects at Feral Geek Aesthetic on Instagram.
Name. That's very exciting.
That's what my old account got changed to, the thing that used to be like my performance thing. I was like, I'm going to put up a bunch of the visual stuff that I've done and repost things that like my friends have done that I find really cool. And it's like literally an excuse for it to just be fandom soup.
Well, we are just one squad in the fleet. We're part of the Geekish Network. That's twitch.tv/Geekish Network. And don't forget our auxiliary support ships from Digital Click Marketing as we build and expand. As foils to attack positions, we're going in. Welcome, everyone. Good evening. We are here once again. What's the news around the galaxy? Lexi, what you got?
Okay, so back in January, I started reading the Timothy Zahn Thrawn series. So I'm really excited for Thrawn Ascendancy Greater Good, which is upcoming soon. I wrote down, I'm so bad with dates, it's April 27th is the release date for that.
Yeah,
so
cool.
If you are a Thrawn fan, and if you haven't read any of his books, but you have seen him in the Clone Wars, definitely check those out. The writing is excellent. I would argue that it takes him from being like some kind of arch villain to actually being an anti-hero. Like, they're really well written.
So this is a trilogy, right? The Tron Ascendancy trilogy, and this is the second book in that series. What was the first one about? Roughly, like your elevator pitch.
Elevator pitch. It's so hard. Okay.
Way to put her on the spot, Andy.
Yeah. No, I didn't realize I was going to be elevator pitching the first one. Like a month and a half since I've read the book.
Well, like where in the timeline is it? Is it like after the fall of the Empire? Is it like before, when he's still with the Chiss Ascendancy, or?
So the first one is Chaos Rising. Hold up. That's not the one that I actually read, though.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
So, it's not the one that I actually read.
Oh, so you read one of the older trilogies?
Yeah, I read one of the older ones just to kind of get a feel for the writing, because right. So basically, what it says it's about is kind of like murmurs of like civil unrest and political schisms within the Chiss Ascendancy, which is like Thrawn's people.
Right. So this might be actually before he joins the...
What sends him out to... I'm guessing it'll probably explain to us why he ends up.
I think I read one of the ones, one of the previous ones, the one where you learn when Thrawn meets Anakin Skywalker the first time, and also implying that Thrawn, of course, knows the true identity of Darth Vader, but. Yeah, which was a good read. I enjoyed that one.
It's really interesting because in the novel I read, they do also imply that, because he asks, did Anakin Skywalker survive the war? And he's told no. And then he gets introduced to Darth Vader, and he doesn't say anything, but his character is so damn smart. It's hard for me not to imagine that he's just strategically sitting on that, being like, okay, you aren't going to tell me. I'm just going to continue to confirm my suspicions quietly. He's got to know. He's one of those characters where if you're like,
he's
no way he
Thrawn.
knows, he probably fucked.
Of course he knows. Speaking of knowing, Tracy, what do you know that's new in the news of the Star Wars world and universe?
I am glad that I know this because I had not read any of the Thrawn books. But if you were a Game of Thrones fan and you remember Ilaria Sand, who gave the lovely kiss of death to people, namely Jaime and... Is this spoilers at this point? No, this isn't spoilers, right? Like, you should know by now or have watched it by now. But Jaime and Cersei's kids, she gave a kiss of death to the girl, like the one good one. But okay.
I remember her, the little cinnamon roll blondie girl.
I know, she was so cute. But the actress's name is Indira Varma. I really hope I'm not mispronouncing that. But she is going to be a part of the cast in the new Obi-Wan series. Ooh. And they are thinking that she might play Satine, who is the Duchess of Mandalore, right? She's the older sister of Bo-Katan.
That's purely speculation at this point, right? Like, they haven't actually announced...
It's speculation,
But she got some cheekbones, is what you're saying.
It would be amazing if that's who she was playing, because poor Ewan McGregor lost Satine in Moulin Rouge. If he loses Satine in his Obi-Wan series, that would just...
Right.
Be full circle, right?
Continuing to mull over her death during the Cold Wars.
I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if I'm ready to go on that ride again.
Well, we will be going on that ride because for next week's show, we're actually going to continue our Clone Wars rewatch, and we'll be covering that very story. The story of the Duchess of Mandalore. So that's a 3-story arc.
Purpose?
I am doing that on purpose because we've been doing so well talking about Ahsoka and looking at the different ways our favorite Jedi have been dealing with attachments. And I thought it'd be a nice way to kind of round it off after we've met Lux Bonteri to see how Obi-Wan dealt with Satine. So we'll get to that later on.
And we did see Satine in the episode, the season 4 episode, right? Where
we did, yeah.
Where he goes and tries to get himself arrested, right?
Right. So that'll be fun. We'll talk more about that towards the end of the episode and what to watch and what that particular watch list is. One more bit of news. If in case you've been under a rock, this is like a weekend of releases. Like, there are so many crazy releases. Of course, WandaVision just dropped the season finale for that show, as well as, of course, Coming to America 2 just dropped, and Disney Plus just released Raya and the Last Dragon, the latest feature release from Disney Animation, which stars the Rose Tico actress Kelly Marie Tran, and that is out there on Disney Plus. I have not seen it yet. I'm hoping to catch it tomorrow, but it is available on Disney Plus as a premium offer, so you do have to pay an additional $30 to see it, which some may or may not want to do. I am a big animation nerd, and so I'm thinking I might hit a drive-in because there are a few drive-ins here in LA that
Wait, Andy, since I use your Disney Plus, does that mean that if I spring for it gets charged to you? Just kidding.
They're totally legal about that.
Just kidding.
But yeah, do check that out. It's getting great reviews. and there's a lot of buzz about it. Of course, from my perspective, it's great to see so many Asian American actors that are featured in this film. And also, of course, a discussion that needs to happen about representation of Southeast Asian actors, not just East Asian, because it's a whole continent, y'all. But just saying. Anyways, that's our news from around the galaxy. Shall we get into some of the meat of the night?
All right.
I'm a vegetarian, but sure.
Fair enough. The Vegemite?
The portobello steak?
The portobello steak.
That's much better.
Good.
That's much more pleasant. Okay.
The Morningstar veggie sausage of the evening.
So tonight we are coming back to our Star Wars High Republic book club. We are now covering part 2 of Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule. This is chapters 19 through 35. If you are worried about spoilers, be aware that we will be talking about this for the next 25, 30 minutes, maybe. So you can either kind of mute us for now if you don't want spoilers, or if you're more about just kind of hearing what the ins and outs of the book are, and you might decide whether or not you want to read afterwards. Feel free to do so. But we're going to get talking, and also join us in the chat so that we know what you're thinking, what your questions, what your feelings were on this part of the book. So with no further ado, let's get started.
All right.
I need my overture here when I do these. It's like it just feels so into nothingness. But after a daring multi-pronged rescue mission, the Republic is in shock. Chancellor Lina So has called for a lockdown on all hyperspace travel into the Outer Rim, leaving many without supplies or trade. In this desperate hour, she turns to the Jedi Knights to find the truth behind the Legacy-run disaster. On Hetzal Prime, Elzar Mann assists an ingenious feat of computing, using over 57,000 Navidroids linked on a computing array to calculate and predict future emergences of the wreckage of the Legacy-run. Meanwhile, the sinister Marchion Ro, the Eye of the Nihil, plots with his collaborators, utilizing their own nefarious resources to predict further emergencies with the motive to use them for profit. Nihil leaders Pan Eta, Lorna D, and Kasav Miliko set on each of their respective tasks that will set them head to head against some of the most noble Jedi Knights, such as Loden Greystone, Porter Engle, that's so weird to pronounce. Te-Ami, Mikhail Sudmani, and many other heroes of the Republic. But with lives hanging in the balance and mysteries to uncover, the galaxy hangs in the balance between those who would bring order and those who crave to profit from chaos.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay.
All right. I'm done. Take it away, Lexi.
All right. So part 2. Yeah, there are a lot of characters. I'm in chat right now. There are a lot of characters. When I was reading this, that was one of the reasons why we were talking before the show about who's listening to it on audiobooks and who's reading it. And I was like, I had to actually read it. And I had to pull up like a separate window, and I would look up a character if I didn't recognize it, so that I would have like a visual picture of them, because I started to lose track of who they were. But
yeah, actually it helped for me too, to just put a pad down, and just every time I saw a new character was being featured, just to write down their name, just so I could kind of keep track. Elzar Mann is on Hetzal Prime, right? or Loden Greystone is, on what planet was he on? Elfrona, right?
Yeah. So that actually brings me to Elfrona. This is not the first time that it's been mentioned.
Oh, really?
It actually, yeah. So it's actually mentioned first in the Rise of Kylo Ren comics, and it happens to be the site of the kidnapping storyline in this High Republic book, which is kind of a gnarly storyline, and it ends up having implications further down the line for like the rest of the Jedi Order.
Okay.
So I'm gonna leave it at that. It's like this isn't one of like the episodic, like it all. But I mean, that seems to be a Charles Soule thing so far, and this is his first book I've read.
I was gonna say, was the Kylo Ren comics series, was that a Charles Soule project as well?
I should know that, but I don't. But I can find out.
No rush. It was just a side question, but let's keep going on talking about.
Yes,
the book.
It is.
Oh, it is. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Authors have their favorite planets, clearly.
You made it. Might as well use it. So we have Elfrona, which is first mentioned, and a couple of new locations. I love the names of the ships. The Jedi ships in this particular era have some really cool names. So you've got the medical frigate, which you've got the Wookiee Padawan Buri, who he's on the medical ship. That's called the Panacea, and the name for that means a universal cure. So that's kind of yeah.
In what language?
Gosh, Andy.
Asking the hard question. It's English, but I don't know what the etymology is. I think it might be Greek.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's always kind of interesting how you can see like.
Yes, it is. Yes, Greek goddess.
Like little bits of familiar language kind of informing things, right? I mean, like obviously like the cheesy ones were like the planet Octo came from
8.
Act 2.
Oh.
And then
Acto, not Octo.
Oh.
And then another really cool one with kind of some like Greek or Latin roots is the Ataraxia, which is Jor Mali's ship, and it means a state of serene calmness. So like that's very, very Jedi Order, very Jedi Order stuff. Also, I don't know if we had talked about it when we first brought up the Nihil, and that their name was kind of a reference to nihilism.
Right, of course.
Nihilism, right? But then you get even more of a lean into it when you get introduced to No Space.
Right. So that's really interesting. I'm not even sure what No Space is referring to, but obviously it's a place, but it's like, I mean, it's an interesting title for a location.
Yeah, it seems like it's some kind of, okay, so they use like hyperspace backroads essentially.
Right.
And it seems kind of like they have a hyperspace unpaved kind of like lot sharing that they kept, that they've camped out in.
A hyperspace what again?
Like a hyperspace camp.
Wait,
right?
their camp isn't in hyperspace though.
No, it's not in hyperspace because they're saying that everything that they do is adjacent to the hyperspace lanes.
Because of the 300-year-old weird lady who.
So let's talk about her.
Stasis.
Yes.
I am so curious about this
Speaking
character.
of new characters.
So particularly they so they go to great lengths to introduce Marlo and Velis Santeca of the Santeca clan. And presumably these are ancestors of Lord Santeca, who we met in episode 7, right? Apparently the Santeca clan at this point, they are hyperspace prospectors who are discovering new hyperspace lanes. And therefore basically mapping the galaxy.
They're like the super rich people that live on Naboo?
Are they on Naboo?
Or is it Alderaan? They're on Alderaan.
Right,
there was another scene that happened on Naboo. What happened on Naboo?
You're right. Something happened on Naboo. I forget that. And oh gosh, and then that's right. There's a Gungan. There's a Gungan wet bubs, but we'll get to that later.
Oh, that's right. I knew when he said Gungan, I was trying to picture the Gungan, and I didn't even think about Jar Jar.
Okay,
such a fantastic name.
But okay, but so going back to Mari Santeca though. So Mari Santeca apparently, we don't even really know. They haven't really explained yet how she's related to the Santecas, right? But yeah, she's like 300 years old. Apparently,
I didn't even realize that they were related. She's a Santeca?
Yeah, she's a Santeca.
Oh my God. Okay, during that part, I was in the middle of my bushes in my backyard. So that's my excuse for that.
So from what I gathered, she was basically raised in hyperspace. Here's my take on it. I think she's force sensitive.
Yeah,
and she's never formally trained. But because she was a force-sensitive child who grew up spending more time in hyperspace than with her feet on the ground, it literally probably changed the way she grew and the way her mind developed and the way her connection to the Force developed, specifically that she became a Pathfinder.
Well, and so somehow though she's in the ship called the Gaze Electric, right?
So here's what I remember to the best of my like memory, piecing together knowledge, is that she helped her family get successful, and they kind of tried their best to keep it under wraps because they knew what an asset she was. But I think it was Marchion Ro's father who found out about her.
Right. Well, see, that's the question, right?
Or grandfather.
Was she wired up into the Gaze Electric by Marchion Ro's father, or was she wired up into the ship by the Santeca clan way back, and she just was sold off with the ship? I mean, that's like,
or stolen.
I don't think she was sold off the ship. I think she was kidnapped, and then I think they kind of never gave her back.
It's so interesting because she's still like, I mean, obviously like Marchion seems to like torture her a little bit, but he also is like restrained, like feels like he has to be nice to her. But she's like, she's like almost supportive of him. It's like, oh, your little business,
But she gets confused about who he is, right? Like sometimes she thinks it's her son. Sometimes she thinks it's her torturer. Sometimes she realizes who he is and remembers all the crazy secrets he's told her. Yeah. It's all coming back to me now because the husbands look at each other and they're like, she can't possibly be alive, can she? When the two Jedi.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that, so I think that what it was is that the family, like part of the reason that the family was so successful, made that first nest egg, and they made enough off of that and established themselves enough off of that they were then able to hire a lot of people to make up for the fact that they didn't have her.
Well, also, it's also interesting, like in the chapter where they introduce Marlowe and Velis, Santeca, syndrome, right? That it's interesting that they talk about how the Santecas are really wealthy because they are like opening up new hyperspace lanes or introducing new trade routes or even charging tolls on some hyperspace lanes, which I was just like, that's such an interesting, like, this is where we are in the galaxy at this point where there's still not a lot of ways to the outer rim. Space
Apple.
Yeah.
It had this vibe like how the Kennedys made all their money during Prohibition. So like, bootlegging, like that's kind of how but then they like became legitimate, but really like they became legitimate and were rich because of the not legitimate money. That's how it felt, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm be very curious to see how this element like plays out over time, right? I mean, because she is also kind of the reason why the Nihil have this advantage. They're able to, kind of appear out of nowhere, seemingly just because of these unusual hyperspace lanes or finding new leads. It's interesting.
I pictured her like the three people in Minority Report that are in the fluid.
The precogs.
Precogs. That's kind of how I pictured her, even though I feel like she's just in like a bed somewhere, but
like a really high tech.
Yeah, because she seems like a human computer, right? Like she processes. Yeah. They like they're trying to do all these navidroids to process when things are going to happen, but she's like, "Oh, here, let me figure that out for you."
It's also interesting that this is the structure of the like right now at this point we are discovering that the Nihil have this very, shall we say, democratic structure, right? Where their positions are a strike, a storm, a tempest, right? Varying degrees of weather patterns or
I don't know if democratic is the word I would use.
Well, if it's Marchion Ro, and he doesn't have any fighters or anything, and he just supplies paths or plans, right? And then you have the three leaders of the different tempests that just basically kind of control the various fleets, right?
Maybe like a very loose confederacy.
Fair enough.
Because
they do get a vote.
Yeah, I mean, it's that Marchion Ro doesn't actually have. He's not really the leader at this point, right? Like the between the four of them, between the I and the three Tempest runners.
But the reason I wouldn't call it a democracy is because like the billings have like no say, right? And they're basically cannon fodder.
You know who I picture when I picture Marchion? What's his name? Marchion Ro is his voice. If you listen to the audiobook, his voice sounds very similar to the German actor who's in Mandalorian, who's trying to get the child.
Herzog?
Herzog, yeah. So because his voice sounds almost exactly like his voice, it's that kind of, this is my, I want the child. The child is very important to me. You know, it's like that, but I'm doing it wrong. That's a terrible impression. But it's that kind of like almost above a whisper sound that's all I can picture is Herzog Warner, right? That's his name. Right? You're listening to the audio. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. I just thought I was freezing for some. But I was fine.
Wait, Paul wants to know what I'm drinking. I'm drinking Newton's Folly semi-dry cider. It's 5% alcohol by volume.
Yummy. So
Andy, that's you. You got to mute yourself.
What?
You have sirens. You got to mute yourself during the sirens.
Oh.
So I don't know. Do they know about her? It sounds like she is kind of a family secret. Yeah. You know, it seems like she's kind of a family secret, and they all kind of assumed she'd be gone by now. It's interesting to know that there is sort of an expiration date on his resources, you know?
Right. That presumably she's gonna die eventually, right?
Yeah, like he talks about having like a database of all of the paths, but apparently one of the really difficult things about all of these paths is that they do change. So
yeah.
Right. That's what I was unsure. It's like, so is the idea that hyperspace is in flux, or that these kind of back channels are specifically because they're like taking advantage of cracks or, you know, breaks in hyperspace or something?
It seems to me like it's like ribbons that are kind of going like this or something, right? And they're kind of always crossing each other.
It would seem to me that if hyperspace is kind of like a river delta, or, you know, like a series of rivers and waterways, that sometimes you're going to get little side streams and channels. And then depending on floods or droughts or things, some of them will be impassable. And, you know, I guess she can theoretically fit a freighter through a stream, which is like, which is why I'm like, hello, force user, clearly, or force sensitive at least.
Well, so this is also how we kind of learn that the disaster of the Legacy Run. Like, did we know they crashed with the Nihil?
It was implied. It was implied.
Yeah,
it was implied, right?
And
but
then
this is where we like it's confirmed now. At least for us, the reader.
And then it kind of goes one step further and shows that they like don't really have that much trust with or allegiance to each other. Like, it's very tenuous, because you see that they think that it was a mistake Marchion Ro planned on purpose for them to intercept.
Right.
So he orchestrated it, and he's got his own agenda going on, which seems to have something to do with they've started to bring up the color purple.
Is that why you're wearing purple tonight?
No, I just I think one of the first questions you guys asked me is like, oh, if you had a lightsaber, what color would it be? And I was like, purple, no hesitation. So like, purple's my go-to when I'm playing lights. But yeah, I thought it was interesting, and actually, I'm sitting over here going, oh yeah, great, do the Disney cop out, make purple the bad guy.
No. Disney.
Mace Windu is purple.
It's green fire. Green fire is the telltale evil.
Huh?
Green fire is the telltale evil in all Disney.
Yes.
Yeah, but also, like, if you look at a lot of the villains, they also have purple.
That's because it contrasts well against green fire.
Yeah. So, and I thought that Star Wars was going to do that because of Mace Windu, but apparently, I don't know. Anyway. It's fine.
So we have about 7 more minutes to talk about the book. So I want to get to a couple things. One of the things that I really enjoyed was the first chapter when they introduced Chancellor Lina Soule, and just her vision of the I almost said the Empire, but of the Republic, right? This idea of, this is kind of where we're seeing kind of the real, the meat of the idea of this High Republic, right? And I love this idea that, this is they're coming up on the opening of the Starlight Beacon, which is a space station, which is basically the anti-Death Star, right? But that's the deadline that she's given for the Jedi, that we've got to figure out what happened with the Legacy run, and we're going to close off hyperspace and hopefully have things up and running again before we open the or unveil the Starlight Beacon.
And as far as anti-Death Star, to just kind of go into a little bit more, like being a cultural exchange and trade center,
right?
Kind of a Republic embassy.
Yeah,
a Republic embassy,
complete with its own Jedi temple on board.
Yeah, its own Jedi.
It's like
temple.
the Ivory Tower in Neverending Story.
And it literally boosts comm signal in the Outer Rim as well. So it's like it's proving that the core worlds are investing in the Outer Rim,
right?
As kind of a political move on her part. And I don't know if there are any quotes that stood out to anybody, but at least
what you got?
Yeah, British. Kevin's Crossing. I saw a great TikTok about villain voices in Star Wars. Make them British, more evil, more British. Yeah, they like accents, and then they also kind of queer code villains a lot, or at least they used to. They used to be kind of big on queer coding villains. So if you think of like Jafar or King John from like Robin Hood, I know that's like reaching really far back, but you think of a lot of their villains, and their villains are very like flamboyant and often have like purple and green and all of these like very like ostentatious colors. Ursula straight up drag,
right?
They modeled her after Divine. So like I could go on about that. But that's a whole thing. So back to Lina Soule, the quote that I thought really encompassed her vision, and what I thought was kind of sad seeing how far like what ended up happening to the Republic, because her whole thing being that progress was inevitable and crucial, but was not the only goal. Mindfulness is also important. Choice. And that original purpose ends up being obscured by corruption and bureaucracy. And it's almost antithetical to the Empire's directives and priorities too. Right. So I thought it was really important that got stated so clearly. I also liked it because mindfulness in itself is a concept with a pretty rich spiritual tradition and a long history, but it's only been gaining popularity in Western culture in recent decades. And so I love that it gets included in the Star Wars canon now, because as we've discussed previously, like a lot of Star Wars, story and theme stories and, theme and pull from a lot of these classic storytelling motifs.
So as an example of mindfulness, I want to talk about one of my other really favorite scenes. It's the reception on the Salvation class Republic medical frigate, right? Where Buryaga, our Wookiee Jedi Padawan, who is just so frustrated because he hates doing all of the diplomatic stuff because he's a Wookiee and no one can understand anything that he says. So he's doing the thing. He's dutiful Padawan, and he's people are trying to talk to him and he hates small talk, and but because of this, he's able to kind of observe the crowd, and he's very in tune with what they're feeling, all of the survivors of the Legacy run. And in particular, he identifies this young boy who is a survivor, probably lost his family, and he thinks that the Legacy run disaster is his fault because he was playing a prank and was trying to hack into the or slice into the
He was one
computers.
of the first characters that we met in the very first chapter. So
yeah, right. The captain talks to him.
Yeah. He's the kid that was totally trying to look up porn.
Space porn?
Totally. He's I was trying to look up space porn and then we all exploded and my parents are dead and now he's never going to be able to masturbate.
adding guilt and shame to
scarring the next generation of
as if circumcision wasn't enough. But so Buryaga actually kind of is able to communicate with this kid, even though of course they have language barriers, and he's just sensitive enough to just kind of hand single his way into getting this kid to talk to him. Of course, this becomes a key moment as it's the first account that the Nihil are part of the reason that the Legacy run crashes.
I want to be hugged by a Wookiee. Doesn't that seem like the best hug ever by a Wookiee?
Having been to Galaxy's Edge, I can account for Wookiee hugs are awesome hugs.
I know we have to move on, but one thing that I just want to mention real quick is in the very first chapter where we meet the senator, they have a really beautiful description of the mountain on Coruscant.
Yes.
Since Coruscant is such a huge part of Star Wars and Jedi lore, and how everything has changed, everything has become futurized and mechanicalized, but this mountain has always stayed the same. And it's like a black surface that surrounds the mountain that everybody comes to touch, right?
Right.
I had actually written about that. So it's the tallest peak of the tallest mountain range on Coruscant, and the peak is called Umate, and it is, I think the reason it's so special is because it's the only piece of bare ground that you can see.
Right.
And,
which is such a cool concept, honestly.
Right. And it's important to note that it is not the highest point in the city by far. Mm-hmm. It's not the highest point in the city by far, which is actually the point that was right before the quote that I talked about, where progress is inevitable and crucial, but not the only goal. Mindfulness is also an important choice. And so that's the meaning that she assigns to the intentional choice to leave the mountain peak, the original part of Coruscant, to include that in the architecture of the city. And that's why people touch it, because it's their way of, reaching out and connecting with the heart of the planet, which they've intentionally chosen to remain in touch with.
And countless societies have been on this planet, and they have all made this group unconscious or conscious decision to leave this one thing.
To value this.
Yeah.
What I also liked, and it, I don't know, I think it's one of the reasons she's such a powerful character, the Chancellor, because she is smart. She dreams very, very big, but she's also not unrealistic, where she says, it says to the Chancellor, Umate had a second meaning, a symbolism she would never voice, never speak aloud, as it went against the general spirit of optimism and hope and possibility that was a cornerstone of her government, and indeed the Republic itself. That meaning was this: There was nothing so big it could not be swallowed up, nothing so strong it could not be humbled, nothing so tall it could not be made small. Not a mountain, not the Republic.
Oh, that's a good thing to end on.
Yeah, so obviously there's a lot of stuff we didn't get to. We'll come back to this in 2 more weeks when we'll hit part 3, final chapters of the book. So read along with us, and we'll come back to that. Before we move on, I'm just quickly say, yes, we got to learn more about the Nihil. We got to watch, or not really watch, but hear about a whole standoff on Elfrona between some Nihil trying to take some hostages and facing off against Loden Greatstorm, Belzetifar, and we didn't get to talk about Porter Engle. I really love that character. Older Jedi. We talked about Buryaga. Also, the botched extortion attempt on Iriadu, where Kassav really screws up. So a lot of great stuff in this book, and then we'll be excited to wrap this up next in 2 weeks. So
all of those things definitely get the ripple effects of all that come through. So we'll definitely get to go back and touch on them, and I will definitely have to talk about Porter Engle because he's a fantastic character.
Yeah. That said, so of course, we are a part of a whole fleet of shows here on the Geekish Network. To celebrate this new network and to honor the podcast that started it all, we are giving away a PC, courtesy of a good friend of the network, at JeremyGerm33 on Instagram. He builds PCs. He does custom workstations or gaming PCs that won't break the bank unless you want it to. You can set the budget. He'll work around it. Premium parts with your personal flair, serving the greater LA county with 20 years of an experience. And if you're in the market for a PC, you can hit him up at JeremyGerm33 here on Instagram. We'll put that in the chat. Also, we here at the network will be giving away a PC. And if you'd like to sign up for that giveaway and kind of check things out, it's a beautiful PC case. It's got lights in it. It has the Pangeekery logo on it, and you can check that out. We'll put this link in the chat as well.
Do we know how long the submissions go? Do we know how long people have to do that? I
actually don't know that. Rodney, can you jump in and give us a little details on that? On what the
end
deadline?
Of March. It's the end of March.
End of March. Excellent.
End of March.
Thank you.
So look that up and go ahead and sign up for that. Maybe you might win a PC. Next up, we're going to move on to our next segment, and this is our next guest, Raymond Montemayor. We're welcoming this Star Wars fan filmmaker who is the creator of a series of animated shorts called Star Wars Toy Stories, which combine digital effects and animations with stop motion, basic puppetry, as well as some live action. And for those of you on audio only, you can check this out on YouTube, on his YouTube channel. But for right now, let's take a look at this clip. Coming up.
Any second now.
Any second. The magic of video production.
Lucas put us all up for sale on Crane's list.
What's the plan, kid?
Cassian, K2, it's time. Are you with me?
Who are you?
Finn, you must be Rey.
Rey? My name is Rey?
I'm Soule. I'm captain of the Millennium Falcon. Chewie, say hi.
Quick, log in.
Success. I'm Kylo Ren, leader of the First Order.
We're looking for a Jedi Master.
Yoda? You seek Yoda?
Stay away from Luke.
Punch it!
All right, help us welcome Raymond. Raymond holds engineering degrees from Harvey Mudd College and UCLA and spent the first 12 years of his career as an electrical engineer designing integrated circuits for the telecommunications industry. In 2012, he started his freelance business, Pixelplex, where he provides design services in motion graphics, visual effects, stop-motion animation, and 3D animation. A lifelong Star Wars fan, Raymond has focused his love for art and technology to produce his fan film series, Star Wars Toy Stories. His first film, Star Wars Episode 4, A Toy Story, was nominated for Best Visual Effects at the 2015 Star Wars Fan Film Awards. His third film, Star Wars The Toys Awaken, won the awards for Best Stop Motion and Spirit of Fandom at the 2018 Star Wars Fan Awards. He is currently working on his fourth film in the series, Home Solo, A Star Wars Toy Story. Please welcome Raymond Montemayor.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Is this your quarantine hair?
Yeah, this is totally the quarantine hair. Like from the photos, compare this to the photos that you've been posting on Instagram. It's like, this is like a year of hair.
I was going to say, the last time I saw you, you definitely didn't have the hair below your ears.
Yeah, I just decided to let it go and see what happens. So, so respect to all of you that have long hair. It's like, it's a struggle, I think.
I don't
For
know
me, I can't wait to get a haircut.
What you're talking about. What do you mean?
You can't be on this show unless you have long hair. That's it. That's kind of the pattern here.
Unspoken prereq.
Well, it's nice to meet Lexi and Andy. We haven't met before.
Yeah.
And thanks to Tracy for inviting me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, good to be here. Congrats on actually getting it all started. And this is like the 12th episode now, right? Or 11th or 12th?
That.
Yeah, this is our second season. We did like eight episodes the first season, just alongside Mandalorian, and we're on our 5th episode now as we're going without new content so far.
Nice.
But there's going to be so much new content in the next 5 years. Oh my gosh.
It's like the farm at this point.
I mean, there's so much content, old content too. So I mean, it's there's a good library for us to work from.
Although I guess the new novels can be considered new content, even if it's not visual. But speaking of visual content, okay, those were so fun on so many levels.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I just, the attention to detail is really, really, really great.
Yeah, it's a kind of a killer to like pay that much attention, but I can't let it go. I always have to like kind of get everything just right. And even then, like when I submit them to like the fan awards and stuff, they're never what I really want them to be. So like for a couple of the films, I went back and like I did my special editions, the McClunky editions, just because I wasn't satisfied with how they turned out, even though they were good enough, but I always want to make it a little bit better if I can.
Is that why there's a director's cut on your YouTube page?
Yeah. So the version, so you're talking about the Toys Awaken. Yeah. So so that's the film that you're in. And Yeah, the version that I sent in to Lucasfilm for their fan awards, I like just literally ran out of time and I wasn't able to do what I wanted. So I just said, special edition, just do it.
So let's kind of go back from the beginning here. So how did your love of Star Wars begin?
Oh, well, I'm an oldie. So I was around for when episode 4 came out, I was about 3. So I grew up with the original trilogy, and it just started from there. And I kind of knew I was like a super fanboy back then because I would draw pictures, write my own little stories and stuff. And I would, collect the toys and all that stuff. And then the original trilogy there was the dark times before the prequel trilogy came around. And so when that came back, it just kind of reignited everything for me. And then, I went from there.
Now, before you started doing the films, were you a big toy collector already? Like, did you have all the original Kenner stuff or?
Yeah. When I was a kid, I had a decent collection of the Kenner stuff. So my prized possession was the Millennium Falcon.
Oh.
And I don't know what happened to that as I was growing up. At some point, either we gave it away like to a family friend whose young kid wanted some toys, or somehow it kind of left my possession. And as did all of my Star Wars toys from when I was young. And so when the prequels came out, though, I started collecting again a bit, and then it kind of died off after Revenge of the Sith, of course. And then as an older adult, when the sequel trilogy came around, I started again because of the fan films. Since toy collecting was kind of a big part of my life growing up, I wanted to submit for the Star Wars Fan Awards with toys in mind. So what could I do with toys? So that's how it all started.
Well, okay, so now, like, the whole fan film movement kind of started around 2007-ish, 2005?
Oh, the Star Wars Fan Film Awards, they actually started back in 2002, and they ran up to 2011. So they did it every year until 2011. And then after Disney bought Lucasfilm, they kind of restarted it in 2015. And they had one in 2015, 16, and 18, and they haven't had one since 2018. But hopefully, maybe for 2022, when Celebration comes back around, they might. So I'm hoping they redo it.
Had you ever done stop motion before you started making these films?
No. I kind of learned it on the fly. So the first film, Star Wars. Oh, thanks. So the first film, Star Wars Episode 4, A Toy Story, I knew the story I wanted to tell. It was basically Star Wars meets Toy Story, like Pixar's Toy Story. And I wanted to do it live action. So the only way to make that happen is with stop motion animation. And so I wrote the script. By the way, I had never written a script or anything, or tried to make a short film. So this was my kind of first venture into that.
That was your first that was your first film ever?
Yeah. I had done like some supporting work for some other films, like doing some small visual effects shots. But it was all like post-production stuff. So this was my first experience kind of doing everything from start to finish. And so I knew the story I wanted to make. So I wrote the script, and I started just filming all of the live action stuff. I cast a few people that would be willing to help me, that I happen to know from doing some work. And then it just came down to like the last week I had the stop motion to do. And I was like, okay, YouTube, teach me stop motion.
All the answers are in YouTube.
Yeah. So what I got out of that, and what I submitted to the 2015 Star Wars Fan Film Awards, was something that was good enough where you could tell what the story I wanted to tell. And the stop motion was okay. and then it got nominated for Best Visual Effects that year. So I considered that, pretty not too bad considering I didn't know what I was doing basically. And then just from there, it just
not sure that
I
you
improved.
give yourself enough credit.
Oh well,
I'm just saying.
maybe
I'm not sure you're giving yourself credit.
Oh, thank you. But you probably saw the special edition version. If you, so that's way better than what I submitted. And I took the original one that I had on my YouTube channel. I took it offline once that special edition came out. It's like, that's not what I want people to see. I want you to see this one.
Okay, so. George.
Wait, the one that I saw down in Balboa Park, was that the director's cut or was that the original edition?
Okay, so that one was the original. No, wait. Yes, that was the original one. The director's cut, I actually went back and I did all the facial animations for all the toy scenes. And I improved the editing and sound a little bit, but it was mainly the facial animations for that particular film.
Do I have a bigger part?
You have the same important part that you played in the original film. I say that I say that because one of the awards that we won was Spirit of Fandom, and that's what you were part of, like having that group at the movie theater in that last scene. That was, I think, what pushed us over the top for Spirit of Fandom. So
can I be honest with you that you said that you didn't really know what you were doing? When I went to the filming that day, I had no idea why I was there.
Oh, really? I knew. So I
was like, so what are we doing?
So you must have been recruited. Yeah, you must have been recruited by Sean Mullen. Maybe, I don't know. I contacted Sean.
Star Wars Society.
Yeah. So I contacted Sean because he was part of the SD Star Wars Society, and I said, "Hey, I'm doing a fan film. Do you know any folks that would want to be in a movie theater scene?" And then he just kind of put his feelers out, and then somehow he helped me recruit like 30 people to show up, and you were one of them somehow.
And a bunch of people who were there who I didn't even meet until later, who are now my friends. But at the time, I didn't know it because we were recruited as part of Star Wars Steampunk Universe because Chris, who does Dude Vader, it was also part of San Diego Star Wars Society. And all of us were like by default members of that because we would do a lot of charity events with them.
Yeah.
But I didn't really, I only knew Sean really as the person who was always in the Tusken Raider head, but I had never seen his face even at that point. So I literally had no idea why I was there.
And so now that you mentioned that kind of, I'm remembering some stuff. So I met Chris Cannoli, so Dude Vader, through the San Diego Star Wars Society. And then he said he would help me find a few folks, basically the Star Wars steampunk folks. And I said, great, get them on board. Love it. And so you weren't sure what you were there for. And when we were on set at the micro theater, I had hired a couple guys to help me do camera operating and gaff and all that stuff. And they canceled at the last minute, like that morning. So I really didn't know what I was doing. I was counting on a couple of these guys to help me with the tech stuff. And so I somehow, I somehow figured it out. I mean, I had done enough videography myself that I could get by. So I was able to grab enough shots that day, even though I didn't know what I was doing. And it was rushed because I only had that spot for a few hours and people had to go. And I remember, Tracy, that you had mentioned to me that, I really have to go. And so I was trying to rush to get everyone. Yeah, I remember there was something that you had to go to and you mentioned it to me.
Yeah.
And then, and you're not the only one. There were like a handful
the social
of other
butterfly patterns of.
I wonder if we were going to a charity. We may have been on our way to a charity event.
Yeah, probably. Because that was on a weekend. So you guys, you're usually doing something on the weekends for charity. So
really quickly, I just want to say hello and welcome to everyone from Denise Patojas. But I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. But welcome to our chat. We're talking to Raymond Montemayor from Pixelplex.
We got rated.
We got rated. And he is the filmmaker behind the Star Wars Toy Stories films that are award-winning Star Wars fan films. And I have a real quick question too. So, okay, so obviously you taught yourself how to animate stop motion. You had to quickly teach yourself how to gaff and on the fly. How did you get into all of the digital effects or the digital animation to like do the mouth moves or any of the lightsaber and blaster effects and all of that?
Okay, so all the post-production visual effects. So I was familiar with some of that because my freelance business is doing motion graphics and visual effects. And the VFX I've done were for like kind of small indie stuff. So a lot of this stuff I learned just watching YouTube videos. So like the lightsaber effects, the blaster effects, green screen. So a lot of that was learning online. So I actually watched a bunch of courses on lynda.com. There's a lot of good stuff on YouTube, but I there was like a certain course that I wanted to learn. And then as far as the mouth animations went, I thought of, okay, what do I want? Because I couldn't animate the mouths the way that professionals do these days with mouth replacement, face replacements. They'll swap out mouths every frame. And with the toys, you can't do that. They're just whatever they are. So I knew I wanted to do some kind of 3D animation to animate the mouths. So I just kind of figured out, okay, do some research. I knew I had to create a 3D model of each toy that had to talk, and then rig that and animate it and then texture it.
You had to build that model yourself. It's not like you could scan it or anything, right?
No, so I did scan it. It's a process called photogrammetry, which I learned about just trying to figure it out.
What program is that?
There's a lot of programs that do that. The one I used is an Autodesk software called Recap. But there's some free ones that you don't have to pay for that do just as good. But you basically take a bunch of photos of the object and from all different angles. And the software is smart enough to stitch together a mesh that represents that 3D object. And then I had to go in and a lot of technical stuff, but basically they call it retopologize, because what comes out of that thing isn't usable. So I had to retopologize it, rig it so the mouth could move or the eyes blink and all that, and then move it to what I filmed and animate the mouth. And it's just so I was able to pick it up. So anyone can do it if you've got the kind of the patience and the desire to do it. Anyone can do it. I just figured out where to look, and I was able to do it. So a lot of great resources on the internet.
Did you know that Lynda isn't a thing anymore? They got bought out by LinkedIn Learning.
Yeah. Yep. It's too bad, but I mean, at least all of the coursework is still there. But yeah, it's yeah. I'm sure Lynda made off with a handful of money. So.
Do you recognize what I'm wearing? You probably don't.
Oh, BB-8 looks like a BB-8.
This is what I wore to the film festival in Balboa Park.
Oh yeah. Oh, awesome. Nice.
So you're welcome.
Thank you. Well, yeah, and I'm glad you made it to that. I thought I was going to be all alone there, but you guys made it, and you really turned out. So I appreciate the support.
That was a lot of fun. That was the first chance I'd had to see the film. So
that's cool. Yeah. On a big screen, so that's nice.
Yeah, and that guy ghosted me like less than a week later. So screw that guy.
Oh no!
But he took a really good picture of our group. So.
Oh, sorry about that.
It's okay. He was a douche.
So
but his name was Luke, so it was kind of great in that way. But anyway, I digress.
So that whole process of going through the Star Wars fan film awards process and all that, like, what was that like? Did you get to engage with folks from Lucasfilm or any of the jury or anything?
No, it was really hands off. So what you do is you submit your stuff online, and you can download all the rules online. And if you have questions, you just basically email someone and hope they get back to you. And once you're selected as a finalist, then then someone is in more constant contact with you because you need to fill out release forms and release forms for the people in your film, and in particular for these 2018 Star Wars Fan Awards, they did that online on the Star Wars show. So they let us submit like little thank you videos and stuff. So there was some contact there, but during the making of the film, there was very little contact. I had a handful of questions and just got those answered by email. So, and they were fairly quick about it, so I can't complain.
I mean, I'm always just intrigued because, I mean, I remember when Lucasfilm first started this, and it was such a big deal for them to acknowledge, like, I mean, I remember, like, what the first major fan film that came out was probably, what, Troops?
Oh, yeah, back in Kevin Rubio, I think 97 is when it came out.
And just the fact that Lucasfilm was acknowledging all these fan film things was just such a cool thing. And compare that to like now, where, you know, for those of us who are also Star Trek fans, and just kind of the somewhat hostile relationship that CBS Paramount has.
Was it Axios?
Axanar, I believe.
Axanar.
George Lucas, when he was the owner of Lucasfilm, he was very fan friendly and he encouraged fan films. He loved it, and I think you couldn't show his movie anywhere, like even for a charity event, he'd like shut it down or sue you. It was the weirdest thing. Maybe not in that regard, but for the fan films, he was very encouraging, and the fact that they had fan film awards for almost a decade with him was great. And even now with Disney taking over, it's still pretty friendly. There is no, even for people that don't submit to the fan film awards and make their own fan films and just publish them on YouTube. I think Disney and Lucasfilm are pretty hands off. They just kind of turn a blind eye, and I think they realize that it's good for the fandom, good for the brand to have fans so engaged that they want to make their own films. And it keeps kind of the excitement for Star Wars, I think, alive for a lot of people.
I mean, for that matter, I mean, I remember there was a time, though, too, when it was like, you know, there were some of these fan film makers who just ended up getting hired by Lucasfilm, right? I mean, particularly in those early days.
Yeah, actually, Kevin Rubio, the guy who did Troops, he got hired by Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
So I believe he worked on Clone Wars, and he wrote the Tag and Binks comic. He was the writer of that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But yeah, I think a handful of people really took off with it in terms of their careers. So it's kind of a good thing.
What's great is that it's like no one hates Star Wars like Star Wars fans, and they complain about it so much. So you can say, okay, you know what? Let's see if you can do better. Make your own film. You give it a try.
Exactly.
So we've got some time left. So what else? So tell us about what you're working on right now. Like obviously we see the you have some of the behind the scenes videos and stuff. But do you have another film coming up soon?
Yeah. So I've been working on the fourth film for a long time now. So the three films I have are kind of a series. They're all connected in some way. They've got the same characters kind of throughout. And this fourth one is going to continue with that. So it's called Home Solo, a Star Wars Toy Story. So just think Star Wars meets Toy Story, which all the other films are, and meets Home Alone. And that's kind of what I'm going for, is that the Home Alone premise. And so you can imagine, okay, what could it be? And it's about someone breaking into a house like in Home Alone. Kids are at home, the parents aren't there, and the toys come to the rescue. So that's where the twist is. So it's the Toy Story comes in that way. But it's so it should be fun. It's really a story about the certain characters that I have in there. And so I've been talking about it, I think, since that film festival that you went to, Tracy, in 2019. That's when I had the beginning ideas for it. And then I've written the script, and I've even recorded a bunch of the dialogue for the toys with, I was able to get Jamie Costa to do Han Solo and several other characters, which I won't reveal, but Han Solo is a big one.
Excellent.
And a few of my other voice actors that normally help me have recorded a bunch of stuff. And I've recorded a few stop motion scenes, but you'd think it would be easier to work on it now the way I film, because a lot of my setting is in my own house. And I've been stuck at home for quarantine, right? So the only thing is my daughters have been stuck at home too. They're doing their distance learning, so they've got their 2 setups in the house, and we got a dog since that film festival, so he's got his own area.
Aww.
So all the spots that I want to film at are occupied by desks and books and dogs, and so it's a little tough to get some of the stuff filmed, but I'm kind of pushing forward as much as I can.
That's the thing.
But
You have these actors that you use, but you didn't mention that you have produced some of your actors as well, because they're your daughters.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Daughter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
cute.
my daughters, Malia, who's 11 now, and Nora, who's 9, are helping me out with these films. So Malia is the one who was at the movie theater filming her scenes.
Yep.
And
Dressed
if
as
you remember,
Ray, right?
Yeah. And if you remember, we filmed that in April 2016, and I didn't finish the film
until 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I didn't finish the film.
So she's probably a whole head taller by
Which
now. Right?
daughter is the one that's like in the toy store?
Oh, no, that's the thing though, is that she was like a head taller. So your younger daughter had to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I filmed about, I think, most of the shots in 2016. And then I had to put that project on hold for various reasons. I picked it back up in 2018 when I found out Lucasfilm was restarting the fan awards. So my daughter Malia was like way too tall. She grew out of the part.
Definitely.
So
definitely.
I had to use
that's hysterical.
I had to use my younger daughter Nora to fill in and finish the shots that Malia couldn't finish. So we filmed it in a way that you don't directly see Nora's face. So just kind of clever editing, and we were able to get it done. But yeah, they both were in that film. Malia was also in the previous film, the Rogue One. And then since Nora only played kind of a body double part, she said, I want my own part. Can I be in the next one?
Love.
So she's the reason I'm doing another one, is she really wants to be like have her own part. So I wrote the film with her in mind. So she's got her own character. She's her own person in this next one. And Malia's in it as well. But looking forward to filming those shots with them when we can. It might have to be during the summer for the live action shots. I'm not sure.
And we'll see how tall they are then. So with each film, like every filmmaker tries to one up themselves. What are you trying to do, like to one up yourself with this film? Like, what's like the most challenging or most like thing that's like you're most proud of?
Oh, well, that's a good question. So I'm always trying to improve my animation. That's kind of important for me, is to, if you look at my first film and second film, so Star Wars: A Toy Story and the Rogue One, there was kind of a quantum leap in production quality, because I invested in some stop motion or motion control gear to help me with a lot of the shots. And just my technique has improved over time. And then when I did as I've been going back and updating my films, I've just been getting better at some of the techniques. So for this next one, how am I going to one up? I think it's just in terms of the volume of animation I'm going to do. Like in all my other films, you see at most maybe 3 characters interacting at a time, of the toy characters. So in this one, there's going to be kind of a big scene towards the end, which I won't spoil, but there's going to be a lot of different toys that are coming to the rescue. So it's going to be I don't know how epic you can get with toys, but it'll be more epic than the previous film. So, and I also want to inject a little bit more comedy in this one, since it's going to be kind of a Home Alone type story. So I'm hoping we'll see how it turns out, but I'm hoping to make it kind of funny and enjoyable, even though the girls are in peril, but get that same vibe that you have in Home Alone, where you've got Kevin and you're rooting for him and he's a charming kid, and you've got comedy with the burglars. So hopefully I can pull it off, but we'll see.
Right on.
If you get the slapstick to precociousness ratio right, you should.
We'll see. Yeah. So I've been watching Home.
Do you have any Mandalorian related ideas for the future potentially?
Yeah, so actually for Home Solo, I rewrote a bit of it so that I can include some of the characters from that show as kind of like a little cameo. Which I think it'll be a crowd pleaser, but we'll see. But there's I've got, even though I'm not even close to done with this film, I have another one in mind after this that Nora will be really the main character in that one. In Home Solo, Malia and Nora are kind of equal partners. This next one will focus mainly on Nora. And in that one, I'm hoping to bring in more Mandalorian and more Clone Wars and Rebels. There'll be a bit of that in this film, but the one thing that my kids and I did over this last year, being stuck at home a lot, is kind of watch all the Star Wars. And even though, they've been in my fan films, but they hadn't seen any Star Wars until about a year ago, like when the pandemic started. So I was waiting for Nora to be kind of old enough to handle some of the violence and, the mild violence in Star Wars. So I thought, okay, once we were in quarantine, it was kind of the perfect time. So we watched all the movies straight through. And then we went and watched Clone Wars, Rebels, Resistance, and then Mandalorian. So now they're all versed in all of that. And their favorite is Clone Wars, and Ahsoka is a favorite character. So I want to put their love of Star Wars in that film, the fifth film, hopefully I get to that point, and do something interesting with the animated stuff. So
Kevin saying that Jawa's throwing junk over the railing at people would be hilarious.
I might actually have a scenario where that could happen. So I might have to credit Kevin for that.
So we're coming up.
Speaking of which, you are. I was very surprised to discover that I had a second IMDb credit thanks to you.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, for years now, my claim to fame has been that I have one single IMDb credit as a bloody nipple, and I went to show somebody, and I was like, 2 credits? What do I have a second credit for? Yeah. And it was Star Wars: A Toy Story.
So we're coming up on the end of our time here for today. Just want to give you one more opportunity. Both, how has all of this work on Star Wars Toy Stories affected your actual work? Like, have you found some of these skills applicable to some of the other projects you're doing? And is there anything you'd like to plug?
Oh, well, the stop motion in particular, after I had done stop motion for a bit, invested in some of the hardware to help me improve it, I actually got some freelance jobs doing stop motion. So that actually directly affected my business. It was for doing stop motion for some baby products, so like baby carriers and those kind of products. And just in general, I've gotten a little bit of exposure locally in San Diego, so it's helped me kind of connect with other folks in the industry down here. And just personally, it's afforded me different things. Like I had the opportunity to go to the premiere for The Rise of Skywalker in Hollywood because of the fan film. I got to, like, at Celebration 2019 in Chicago, I got interviewed on stage by Anthony Carboni for the Star Wars Show Live. So that was like kind of cool, like talking to them and being backstage. And that was all because of the fan film. Like I was able to wiggle my way into these opportunities because of that. So it's, and just meeting like all the folks from Star Wars Steampunk, San Diego Star Wars Society. So I've been making a lot of friends just making the film. So that's been a treat. So yeah, it's
Andy,
really.
You haven't been with me when we've been at a convention and we've gone in to vote for Raymond's films, or was that just Nathan who was with me?
It was just Nathan. I don't think I was.
I always go in and then vote for Raymond's film.
And I appreciate that. So I won a few of those, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
So if people would like to find you on social media or check out your YouTube, where can they find that?
Right. So on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, look for @Star Wars Toy Stories. And on Twitter, it's SW Toy Stories. And on all those platforms, if you look for @Pixelplex, you'll find me as well for my freelance business. And if you go to, I have a fan film page. It's called starwars.pixelplex.com. And there you'll find everything about my fan films and what's coming up next. You'll see the trailers, VFX breakdowns, and the films themselves you can find on there. So yeah, and like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Trying to get to slowly creep towards 1,000 subscribers to unlock certain YouTube features. So if you're out there, please subscribe.
Yes, please.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Raymond. Hopefully we'll have you back maybe sometime after you complete the next film, and we can talk about that one then. Really quickly, I'd like to thank our new followers, Drink Water for the Boys, Estonian Knight, Unicorn Flames, and Shiner God. We'll also just do another thanks to Denise Pantoja for the raid. Also, we're going to be raiding Circe at CVW220. So we're going to move on here. Do we have any other squad reports from the galaxy, Tracy?
Only that I have to pee.
Okay, that's tradition now. So coming up next week, on March 13th, we will be continuing our Clone Wars rewatch, the Essential Mandalore watch list. We'll be looking at Clone Wars episode 212 through 214, The Duchess of Mandalore, and then we'll have some extra credit. You don't have to watch these. We won't just touch on this, but episode 305 and 306, Corruption on Mandalore, but really want to focus on the Duchess of Mandalore arc. We'll talk about Obi-Wan.
McGregor get his heart ripped out again.
Yes. Or J. Arnold Taylor in place of Ewan McGregor. We'll have another guest that we'll announce later on this week once we confirm that. In 2 weeks, on March 20th, we'll come back and finish the High Republic Book Club, reading the final part 3, chapters 36 through 44, and we'll wrap up that whole thing with the Star Wars High Republic, Light of the Jedi. Also, we want to see all of your Star Wars creations. Do you cosplay, make fan films, build droids, build models, sell stuff on Etsy? Show us your Star Wars stuff. We want to see how Star Wars inspired you, and we just might feature you here on the show like Raymond. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're here on the Geekish Network every Saturday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Please follow Geekish Network here on Twitch and subscribe to the channel. If you have Amazon Prime, you can also link your account and sub to us using Prime Gaming. Also, check all the schedules for all the other great shows here throughout the week. This Monday, the flagship show Plan Geekery will be covering Raya and the Last Dragon, that is out on Disney+, and also the season finale of WandaVision, also on Disney+. We'll be joined by AJ Raphael, who's a streamer and YouTube, back from the old days of YouTube, singer, songwriter, musician, and very talented performer. Thanks on the flight deck to Mike and Rodney, also Digital Click. They specialize in digital marketing, design, and social media advertising. Find them at digitalclick.com. And we are the Pod Squadron. Please check out our content on podsquadron.com. Like and subscribe on Twitch and YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. For podcast subscriptions, you can subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, on your favorite podcast app.